Sacramento Kings fans, you give me life. The energy that you pumped in the Golden One Center is going to fuel me for all of 2023. But what a way for the Kings to end 2022 with another 1-point victory at home, this time courtesy of a Kevin Huerter 3 that set off maybe the loudest pop in the history of the Golden One Center. You're listening to Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season long. Today brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered the season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports reporter and producer for ABC 10 News. I'm standing on the floor just feet away from where Kevin Huerter hit his game-winning three. It wasn't at the buzzer. It was still a game winner for the Sacramento Kings to, I would say, sneak past the Utah Jazz and get this win. But in reality, the Jazz were trying to be the thieves tonight. The Kings were ahead for nearly this entire game, but that doesn't matter. It matters what you do in the fourth quarter. And it looked like the Utah Jazz were going to come into Sacramento and steal a win from under the noses of the Kings and cement the Kings with a losing and bad homestand. But instead, one big shot by Kevin Huerter, but the build-up from excellent play from Sabonis and Fox, plus a couple of unsung heroes that I want to talk about from tonight's game. It all turned into a phenomenal night here in Sacramento and a wonderful way for us to wrap up 2022. It all happened on this basket right here behind me over my shoulder. And before we dive into this game, talk about that Kevin Huerter 3, I figured, audio listeners, why don't you listen to the reaction inside the Golden One Center, and video watchers, you're going to see my shot from my camera angle of Kevin Huerter's big three. It gives me chills just hearing it and watching it again, man. I've sat through a number of really cool moments here in the Golden One Center. For me, the top moment in the history of this arena was when Bogdanovic hit that game-winning three over Tyson Chandler and the Los Angeles Lakers a handful of years ago. I think that was like 5 years ago or something like that. Now, that was the loudest that this building has ever gotten. Tonight's three might have topped it. I mean, 17,900 in attendance, the seventh straight sellout for the Sacramento Kings. The fan base just continues to show up in a major way, and they were building up to that moment, man. Kevin Huerter missed a three. Kings get the offensive rebound. Fox, runner in the lane. That rims out. Looks like Lauri Markkanen's going to secure the rebound and basically put the Kings away. Kings keep it alive. Ball is swung. Keegan Murray makes the right play with the extra pass to Kevin Huerter, and he wasn't going to miss a second time. Kevin Huerter scores 30 points in 30 minutes, and we found out after the game, this is the first time in Kevin Huerter's career that he's scored 30 points. It's a new career high for him, and he was telling us a story after the game about how he had a reputation kind of follow him in Atlanta where 30 points was just avoiding him. He'd have 27 points, 28 points, 29 points, but could never get over that 30 hump. He was finally able to do it tonight in a massive way to give the Sacramento Kings the 126-125 victory. On Wednesday, they beat the Denver Nuggets by 1 point. Tonight, they beat the Utah Jazz by 1 point, and they turn a homestand that was looking like it was going to be at best 2-4 into 3-3. And there was a really good chance that this homestand was honestly going to be 1-5 after that first Denver Nuggets loss earlier this week. But the Beam team, they have their swagger back. And we talked about this a lot after the Nuggets game, how important a win like that is to turning around a season. I almost said saving a season in a lot of ways. Well, tonight's win just furthers that, reminds the Sacramento Kings that in a hard-fought game at home, they're able to get results like this. And that is one of the things that I really want to focus on here in this podcast is this is what good teams do. This is what winners do. This is what perennial playoff teams do, is they find a way to win these hard-fought, grinded-out, gritty victories at home. The Utah Jazz were hanging around the entire night. I think in the third quarter, the Kings got it up to 10 points at one point. Then the Utah Jazz followed it up with like an 8-0 run to get it down to 2. Kings got it back up to like 7, 8, or 9, but the Kings just could not pull away from Utah. And I gave the Jazz full credit. And I felt like exactly what happened. The Utah Jazz coming back and actually trying to steal the game. I thought that they were setting themselves beautifully up for it the entire night. They did not allow the Sacramento Kings to get enough separation, even though it felt like the entire night the Kings were the better team. Like the Kings were playing better basketball. They were moving the ball better. The Utah Jazz were using getting to the foul line to their advantage. And whether you think the whistle was unfair or not, the Utah Jazz recognized that getting to the foul line is the way for them to stay in the game. They did it consistently over the first 3 quarters. And in the fourth quarter, they hit big shots when it mattered. Mike Conley hits a big 3 in the quarter with like 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter to give the Utah Jazz their first lead. I think it was like 94-91 was the score. And then the Jazz put up 38 points in the fourth quarter. Now, defensively for the Sacramento Kings, that can't happen, right? You need to do a better job defensively securing that game. They did a great job defensively securing the game against the Denver Nuggets. Tonight, it was their offense that saved the day. But even so, I give so much credit to Utah because they just hung around and recognized that on a night like tonight, in a game like this, you just need to put yourself in an opportunity to be the best team for 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Just hang around. It's a position that we are more used to the Sacramento Kings being in, or we've seen the Kings try and be in more. It's almost like a spoiler role, right? We've seen the Kings many, many times on the road and in this building take on teams that we know that they're worse than. And this is, I'm talking about years past, know that they're worse than. They just try and stick around, put themselves in a position to win, and then maybe be able to pull it out. That has been kind of a MO for the Sacramento Kings when taking on playoff teams in the past. This season, they're not the hunters as much. They're the hunted at times. And the Utah Jazz came in here. The Utah Jazz are a good team. They, I think, were a game above 500, if I'm not mistaken, when they entered this game. Now they're at 500. I don't have that written down, so that could be wrong. But either way, the Utah Jazz have been a better team than I expected, a better team than a lot of the NBA world has expected. Hell, a better team than I think even their fans expected in a lot of ways. Will Hardy is doing an excellent job with the Utah Jazz. And that team is a hard-fought team. That team was not going to make it easy for the Sacramento Kings, and they almost got it. They almost pulled off the heist here in Sacramento, but the Kings managed to put together the plays that they needed. They got scrappy when they had to. They got defensive stops when they had to. They missed big shots, did not fold, continued to battle, kept the possession alive, and when it mattered most, Kevin Huerter hit that big 3. The way the Sacramento Kings won this game, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't Golden State Warriors status where they'll rattle off like a 10-0 run and just completely put a team to bed even if it's close at home. That wasn't how the Kings did it tonight. They didn't have to do it that way. They just had to keep fighting, keep in the moment, make the big plays when it mattered, when the lights were brightest, and you just, in all the had-to-have-it moments, the Sacramento Kings, individuals and as a team, stepped up tonight. And I think that is more than worth celebrating for the Sacramento Kings. Before we move on, I have a couple clips for you to listen to. Number one, here's Kevin Huerter. He was asked after the game about if he heard the crowd reaction, if he kind of lived it in the moment, because a lot of time the players, you know, they get tunnel vision. Everything that's happening on this floor, maybe they miss the reaction. But Kevin shares that he did not miss that reaction. And then after Kevin, you're going to hear Mike Brown talking about, I actually asked Brown about the significance of a home win like this, the significance of being able to win these games, these gritty, hard-fought games, and what that means for the development of the Kings into a perennial playoff team and maybe a champion one day.
For sure. I mean, that building went off. Great feeling, obviously. Just for us to keep that possession alive. I think we had 2 offensive rebounds in there. Fox trying to get to the bucket. Just keeping that ball alive. It's a will to win just by everybody who was on the court. And I'd missed one from the same spot about a minute earlier, was definitely wanted it back, and was able to knock down the second one.
Kevin, speaking of that miss, we just heard from Domas, and he said how much the team trusts you in those moments to hit those shots. What does that trust mean to you from teammates like Domas and De'Aaron who are having the games that they're having?
Yeah, I mean, we just got to help those guys. Those guys they bring it each and every night. Their numbers are, tonight was just another night for them. So it feels like we got to definitely give them some help. And Domas is somebody he's going to set screens. He's like, I'm going to get you open. Your job on this team is to shoot it. And it doesn't matter if they're going in tonight. They were, but he's definitely on me. Probably the most out of anybody to keep shooting.
Mike, with your perspective coming from Golden State, how important is this kind of gritty home win to developing into a perennial playoff and maybe one day championship caliber program?
You need to find ways to win like this because, again, we're at the stage now where we have to understand, what consistency means in this business. And, throw out the record, yes, you want to win a lot of games and all that, but it's more about building consistent habits on both sides of the ball. And we're good enough to where if we can be consistent with what our responsibilities are, offensively and defensively, with our staples on both sides of the ball, we're going to win a lot of games, so the wins and losses will take care of itself. So building that consistency takes a mental focus, a mental toughness, a discipline that we're starting to show, I think, at this point in the season. And it'll be great to see if we can have some carryover versus some good teams coming up on the road here.
I know we've talked about this before, but tonight cements it in stone even more. A win like this not only reminds us that the Sacramento Kings are on the right path. To me, wins like this, and they've had a handful this season, solidifies the fact that the 19-15 record isn't a fluke. And the Sacramento Kings are in the 5th seed in the Western Conference for a reason. They belong there. It's not just a fluky start to the season. Now, do I expect the Kings to finish this season in the 5th seed? I don't know, not necessarily. I thought that the 6th seed was going to be pretty much best case scenario for the Sacramento Kings. And maybe expectations are starting to shift. Now that we're going from 2022 into 2023, it might be time to do another podcast where we talk about the expectations for this Kings team going forward now that we have a little over 30 games of context, right? I think it's time to have that conversation. Let's do that on a future podcast. But regardless, this Kings team, this 19-15 team, with wins like this at home, with wins like they had in Cleveland on the road where they rattled off like a 19-0 run or something like that. There are wins after wins after wins that I can point to over the course of this season, the 7-game win streak, that suggests the Sacramento Kings belong here. They belong in this conversation. Now, 5th seed, 6th seed, 4th seed might be best case scenario, but it's not unheard of. It's not unfathomable to watch this team and think this team could just leapfrog the play-in altogether and actually secure themselves a best-of-7 series at the very least. And it's incredible to be able to say that. It's absurd to be able to say that. It feels like we jumped rungs of the ladder, right? Now, the Kings haven't gotten there yet, so we don't want to get too excited. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. And I'm talking to myself here more than I'm talking to you about this. But the reality is it's possible. We didn't think it was possible before. And maybe if this keeps up, if we get into end of January, early February, get to the All-Star break, and the Kings are still like this, maybe it could even become probable that the Sacramento Kings legitimately secure themselves an actual playoff spot. But regardless, as it feels right now, games like this reinforce my feeling that this playoff drought is coming to an end. I don't want to speak too soon, and if I'm jinxing it, and if you want to throw a rock or a tomato at your computer and say, Matt, you're a jinx, shut the hell up, I understand. I'm just telling you how I feel at this moment. I feel like it's going to happen. Now, I don't feel like the Sacramento Kings are going to get into the playoffs and all of a sudden make a massive monumental run all the way to the Western Conference Finals like the Dallas Mavericks did last season. I'm not going to go that far, but it feels like this team is in a lot of ways destined to finally break this playoff drought. And the Sacramento Kings fan base is responding, and boy, I cannot tell you enough. Like, I explained this after the Nuggets game, and I want to make sure I take the time to say it again. Like, I fell in love with the game of basketball because of you people. Because of you. Like, because of the energy that you bring. Like, I get so bothered, unnecessarily bothered, by when I hear people say, why is there a basketball team in Sacramento? Or Sacramento Kings fans don't exist. Or, like, how brain dead can you be? It's the easiest way on the planet to say that you don't pay attention to NBA basketball outside of the 2 or 3 mainstream teams that you call yourself a fan of, and then you switch your jersey depending upon how well that team does. Like, it's so obvious. And what's crazy is people are going to see what's happening right now and hear the pop tonight and see the videos and see the reaction and go, wow, Sacramento's crazy. They're doing great things there. Now, this crowd has been here. These people have been here the entire time. They've just been waiting for this. They've been waiting for 16 years for a team to give them this kind of hope, for a team to give them this kind of volume. And I'm telling you, whether Kings fans are on a 10-game losing streak, 10-game win streak, they're on the wrong end of a 30-0 run, they're sitting on their hands waiting, just begging the Sacramento Kings to give them moments like this tonight so they can remind the world how loud they are. The NBA, the sports world, is not ready for Sacramento to have a good team. I'll tell you that right now. And I'm stealing that line from D-Lo and KC on ESPN 1320. They are not ready. The sports world is not ready for the city of Sacramento to have some swagger, because people are going to go back to 2002. People are going to go back to the late 90s, early 2000s. Remember how Sacramento was the most difficult place to play for any team, not just in the NBA, but in professional sports. This place is a hellhole, a noise monster for so many teams and so many players to have to come and experience. The NBA is not ready to hear that pop and hear that volume every single night. They're not ready. And these fans are going to keep bringing it, and I'm so fired up about it, and I love you guys so much. Going to kill the mood here a little bit with a read that is still important for you to hear from the NHTSA. You've been hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. Maybe you're at a game like tonight where you're partying and you have more than enough reason to party. A few maybe becomes a few too many. And as the evening comes to an end, people start to head out. You think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You lose your job, you total your car, get a DUI, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk, and the results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you're thinking about driving after a few drinks, think again. Don't ruin a great moment. Don't ruin a great night like tonight by making that decision. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. I'm going to just say this really quick because I have nothing against the Atlanta Hawks and the city of Atlanta and Atlanta Hawks fans, but my goodness, y'all gave up Kevin Huerter for Mo Harkless and for Justin Holiday and for a protected first-round pick that the Kings aren't going to have to worry about because they're going to be hopefully a playoff team. Boy. I've said this before, and I'll say this again. Monte McNair deserves an extension just because of that freaking trade. But add that to the resume. Someone extend Monte McNair here in Sacramento. For God's sake, this team is entering 2023 19-15 in the 5th seed. And they belong here. Extend the damn man, please, for love of God. Now, I want to share some love towards 2 unsung heroes. Don't worry. We're going to talk about Domantas Sabonis. We're going to talk about De'Aaron Fox. We're going to get to all that. Don't you worry. Davion Mitchell is in the nightmares of Colin Sexton tonight and maybe for the rest of the season. My goodness, did you see what Davion Mitchell was doing to Colin Sexton? Now, all credit to Colin. Colin takes those things personally. He kept going right at Davion. Davion kept going right at Colin. And even Colin and De'Aaron Fox were going at it from time to time. I'm a fan of Colin Sexton. I like Colin Sexton. I don't necessarily like what happened to him in Cleveland. But regardless, Davion Mitchell was abusing Colin Sexton tonight. Davion Mitchell brought an intensity on defense from the first half on that was infectious. I mean, he took the floor and said, Colin, you and me, we're going at it. You ain't scoring on me. You ain't even getting a good look. You're not going to be able to breathe on this floor if I have anything to say about it. And I tweeted this out as a joke, and WWE fans, you'll understand this. Davion Mitchell won the Defensive Player of the Game chain on after the win against Denver on Wednesday. He was defending that title like he was Roman freaking Reigns and he's never going to let it go. Like, he showed up defensively more than ready to play. And lo and behold, he got the Defensive Player of the Game chain tonight. And again, I'm going to go back to what I said after the first Nuggets game on Tuesday, where I was being overly critical maybe of Davion Mitchell, saying that I was calling him at times kind of an offensive liability. Well, I don't give a damn if Davion Mitchell only scores 3 points or rather 6 points and has 3 assists. If Davion Mitchell's going to play defense like that, he could score no points and have no assists, although that's not who he is. He does a better job distributing the basketball than people, myself included, give him credit for. And I know he doesn't score a lot, but he was 3 of 5, so he's shooting at least efficiently when he is trying to score. But defensively, holy smokes, you can put together already this season a compilation of some of the massive defensive moments that he has. And when he does it that early in a game, when he doesn't wait until the fourth quarter or crunch time to put together that defensive effort, that only spelled out good things for the Sacramento Kings on the night. So Davion Mitchell, definitely an unsung hero, more than worthy of that defensive player of the game train. Now, the other unsung hero, someone who I'm so excited to be able to talk about, so excited to be able to give some love and praise to. It's my guy, Richaun Holmes. Richaun Holmes, he's just an energizer bunny, man, and he's like, people forget because of recency bias, like he earned the money that he got here in Sacramento, even if some people think it's a bad contract and it's the reason why the Kings can't trade him. He earned that money. He earned the starting spot here in Sacramento, and the reason why he lost it is because Domantas freaking Sabonis, who is second only to the two-time MVP and Nikola Jokic, came here to Sacramento, or was the Kings traded for him. That's why Richaun Holmes lost his spot. And I know he's been working hard and has been struggling to kind of carve out his role off the bench for the Sacramento Kings. The Kings are looking for a backup center, but Richaun is a battler, and he went through so much hell last season, so much hell. Off the court issues with his eye, injury issues. Like, he went through a horrendous year last year. And he's such a likable guy. He's such a hard worker. I'm sure he's not happy with his role. I'm sure he's not happy with how things have gone so far this season, but you would never know it by the interaction with his teammates, how he is in the locker room, how he supports his team on the bench. Richaun Holmes is just an absolute pro and an incredible guy. So to see him have the minimal impact that he had tonight, or small impact in the 11 minutes that he played, to put up 7 points and 4 rebounds, also get a big block shot on Malik Beasley, who was trying to go for a dunk. Like, I love seeing that. And this crowd responds to Richaun. When he comes into a game, people cheer. When he shows off the push shot, people cheer. He had a dunk tonight. That big block got this crowd going. People respond to Richaun Holmes here in Sacramento. And I will forever be a fan of Richaun, and I wish him the absolute best no matter what he's doing, whether it's here in Sacramento or elsewhere. I want that man to succeed, and his victories are not just victories for me as a fan, not just victories for him and his family. They're massive victories for this organization. All right, now let's talk about the two obvious guys, the Ox and the Fox. I'm doing it in that order specifically. Domantas Sabonis, 28 points. Nearly perfect night for Sabonis from the field. He went 12 of 12 from the field, but he missed a free throw. And damn it, I wanted him to hit that free throw so bad so I could say that he was Mr. Perfect tonight. But at least shooting-wise, like in-game shots, he was a perfect 12 of 12. Remember, he's doing this with a broken freaking thumb. Also had 11 rebounds and 8 assists. The fact that his fractured thumb, became a non-story within a handful of minutes. Like, I was talking to you about how we forgot about it, or at least I forgot about it, 5 minutes into the Kings and Nuggets game on Wednesday night. Well, once again, with the exception of people bringing it up pregame and bringing it up postgame, like, you can't tell that anything is wrong with Domantas Sabonis, and he's playing with a legitimate thumb fracture that might require surgery. Domantas is an absolute beast. He's an incredible athlete, an incredible worker, an excellent teammate, and to reinforce that excellent teammate point, Chris Biederman of the Sacramento Bee asked Domantas after the game about his perspective on De'Aaron Fox, fourth quarter De'Aaron Fox, which we're going to talk about in a second. And I love this clip, because this is Domantas Sabonis talking about coming in and being kind of the Robin to Fox's Batman. When Robin gets going, or rather when Fox gets going in the fourth quarter, when he starts taking over a game and doing what the Kings need him to do to win, instead of getting in Fox's way or wanting the ball or wanting a piece of the pie, especially after he's been putting up better numbers offensively, or he's having a night like tonight where he's literally perfect from the field, Domantas Sabonis gets out of the way and supports De'Aaron. And here's what Domantas had to say about what he tries to do for Fox in the fourth quarter.
At the end of the game, I always tell him it's you. It's your show. Pick and roll. Want me in it? Don't want me in it? I'm just going to be there if you need help. But that's what he does. He's been clutch for us all year, making the right decisions, making tough shots. In a game like this, point to point, he's kind of unstoppable. Like he said, he can get any shot he wants, and I feel like he's been making the right read every time.
Just an incredible teammate that Domas is. Now let's talk about De'Aaron Fox. He had 11 of his 24 points in the fourth quarter. This is the fourth straight game that De'Aaron Fox has scored double digits in the fourth quarter. Now, they haven't always been wins, but De'Aaron has been Mr. Clutch for the Sacramento Kings. And I remember looking up, I think it was early to mid-third quarter. I looked up at the scoreboard, and I saw he had 11 points. And I'm like, okay, De'Aaron's kind of coasted. He's not playing the best offensively. The Kings are going to probably need a little more offensively out of him, but he's setting himself up nicely to have one of those big fourth quarters. Well, lo and behold, he plays the entire fourth quarter, all 12 minutes, and I think he even played the last couple minutes of the third quarter, so he played like 14 minutes straight. And while he didn't super take over the game, you saw he missed the floater to try and give the Kings or get the Kings to within one. He missed a couple of mid-range jumpers before that, so he wasn't as efficient shooting the basketball in the clutch tonight as he was on Wednesday against the Denver Nuggets, but it didn't matter. He scored big baskets when it mattered, and he did enough to help the Sacramento Kings team win as a whole. De'Aaron just continues to be excellent when it matters most and remind everybody that even though Domantas Sabonis is absolutely having an all-star season and Domantas Sabonis is a shoo-in for the all-star game at this point, De'Aaron Fox should be going to Salt Lake City with him. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Now, Rocket Money is something that I and my family use. I actually just went through the process of selling my old home and buying a new home. And anybody who's gone through that process knows how important it is to manage even the small financial parts of your life. And Rocket Money has already helped me build a budget so I know how much money that I can spend while paying for my new mortgage. And the best part about Rocket Money, in my opinion, is the budget breakdown that it has. Now you can go and see how much money per month you're spending at specific restaurants. Like if you're a huge coffee drinker, you can see how much you're spending at Starbucks or how much you're spending at Dutch Bros or something like that. If you're like a big big into subscriptions, you have a lot of subscriptions, this might be the ultimate selling point for Rocket Money. They will help manage your subscriptions for you. They'll show you all the subscriptions that you have, show you the dates that they come up, of course, how much money you've been paying. And here's the best part. A lot of companies make those subscriptions hard to cancel. So Rocket Money can help handle it for you. The way it works is they have their online concierge that you just say, hey, I want to cancel this subscription. Can you cancel it for me? They will handle it and send you an email and let you know when that subscription is canceled. And plus, it'll help you save a bunch of money per year by reminding you of some of those subscriptions that you didn't know you had. And look, I know that we all try and picture ourselves the best financial managers we can possibly be, but with the amount of subscriptions in today's day and age, it's easy to forget some from time to time. So stop throwing your money away, and you can cancel unwanted subscriptions, manage your expenses right now, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNBA at rocketmoney.com. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/LOCKEDONNBA to save yourself money right now. rocketmoney.com/LOCKEDONNBA. Couple things before we wrap up. Number one, I mentioned this earlier, but it bears repeating. The Sacramento Kings turned what looked like it was going to be a failure of a homestand into passable. Now, I'm not going to say this was a great homestand for the Sacramento Kings, even with how much fun these last two games have been and how it has ended. That loss to Charlotte, still very disappointing. That loss to Washington, still very disappointing. The loss to the Denver Nuggets, to be expected, right? Even though the Kings blew a 20-point lead in that game. But for the Kings to go 3-3 at home, it's fine. All things considered, given the circumstances of what they battled and everything, for them to salvage this homestand, it's one of those necessary evils over the course of a season, right? But let me tell you what's coming up in January here for the Kings, because they go on a quick 2-game road trip, and then they're back home for another boatload of games, a boatload of very winnable games. Here are their next 2 games on the road. At the Memphis Grizzlies, and then at the Utah Jazz. The Grizzlies are the first, the Jazz are the third. Then they return home. Here are the games for the Kings at home. The Atlanta Hawks, who are struggling this season. The Los Angeles Lakers, again, who the Kings beat earlier on in this homestand. The Orlando Magic, who the Kings beat, granted in overtime and thanks to a De'Aaron Fox buzzer beater. The Houston Rockets twice in a row, and the San Antonio Spurs. If you take the Lakers and Hawks out of there, Magic, Rockets twice, Spurs. That's 4 straight games right there that the Sacramento Kings absolutely should win minimum 3. I think some fans would be disappointed if the Kings don't win all 4. My point is, even though we don't like to project wins and things like that, and maybe the Kings haven't gotten to that point yet, my point is home court, even if this 6-game homestand didn't go as well as you wanted it to, still more than your fair share of opportunities over the course of January to build upon this 14 record that the Sacramento Kings have. Build upon this record, continue to expand that safety net a little bit. Because once you get into February, once you get into March, things are going to get a little more difficult. The grind continues. Other teams are going to start picking it up, especially when we start seeing playoff seedings become a little more clear. These games can be essential for where the Sacramento Kings finish at the end of the season. Handle your business at home, but make sure you're also finding a way to split this upcoming road trip with the Grizzlies and the Utah Jazz. That kicks off 2023 for us, and I'm so excited about that. Before we go, though, I want to hear your favorite Kings moment of 2022. Send that to me, at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. And I know a lot of you are going to say, what happened tonight, this game here tonight, especially if you were in this building and were part of it inside the Golden One Center. I'll share with you my favorite Kings moment of 2022. It's when Domantas Sabonis, representing the Sacramento Kings in the draft lottery, took home the 4th overall pick, which of course turned into my guy, Keegan Murray, who, again, just to point out, Keegan Murray made the absolute right pass in the 4th quarter tonight to hit Kevin Huerter, had that game-winning assist. So shout out Keegan. I'm not going to let that go unrecognized. But the Kings in that draft lottery night, to me, was my number one Kings moment of 2022. Again, send me yours. Would love to hear it. Love your support as always. Appreciate you so much. The support that you show Locked On Kings. I hope that I can give that support back. I hope that I can be a good ambassador for you, the Kings fan, in the media, especially being someone who is a Kings fan myself, who grew up in the trenches, who's been here through all of the hell and the struggles of these 16 years. You and I both deserve this, and never forget that, and hopefully we can see it through to actual postseason basketball here in Sacramento. Appreciate you. Love you. Happy New Year. Enjoy your celebration. Stay safe, and I'll see you in 2023. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.